I've had a lot of friends make a lot of money doing the resale thing, meaning buying resales, but they also know the business inside and out. And not every one of them has gone from a resale to a big pot of gold. They've had some dogs along the way, but they've done enough of them where they had way more winners than losers.
Representing Franchise Secrets, Erik Van Horn.
Hey, Franchise Secrets. Today, it's a solo episode with me, and I've noticed a lot of good questions in the Franchise Secrets Facebook group. When I say good questions, meaning there's a lot of comments, a lot of people are engaged with it, and I don't give as much feedback as I probably should within the Facebook group itself for some of these really good questions. So I thought today I would go through and answer at least what I think about some of these questions. This one's around scaling and leadership development as a franchisee. So, a franchisee basically said, so how soon do you incentivize a manager to handle operations and sales so you can be semi absentee with profit sharing or some type of percentage of ownership? Boy, I could say a lot of different things about this, but where I want to start is this whole semi-absentee thing. So I used to say, a lot of the franchises are semi-absentee. Certain franchises are semi-absentee because that's how people own them and or eventually ran them. So can you get to the point where your business or your franchise is semi-absentee, meaning you are spending your time working on the business, not in the business? That's what I think about semi-absentee. You're working on it, not in it. If it's hair cutting, you're not cutting the hair. You are managing the managers who manage the people that are cutting the hair or doing the service or selling the widget and I was in the tax business. I was not a tax preparer. So I was semi-absentee in a lot of that business as I grew it. Because if you have 12 locations, which I eventually had about 12 locations, you cannot be doing the thing. So anytime you see someone scaling, they're probably what you would consider semi-absentee or an executive ownership model where they are building an executive team around them. So when I think about semi-absentee, just wanted to bring that a franchise is not necessarily semi-absentee. A mom and pop business is not necessarily semi-absentee, but can you grow it in a way where you as the founder can step away and work on the business or even use it more as an investment at some point if you bring in really high level leadership and maybe give up equity for that next person to come in and help you be a lot more passive? I think the answer is yes to that because that's what I've done. But I see a lot of people are not able to do that. They get into franchising, they think, oh, it's semi absentee. I should be able to start out semi-absentee in the business. Even in the most semi-absentee business I probably ever had was Solo Salon Studios. We took it from 0 locations to 12 locations in Orange County, California. There was 4 of us partners. The first year, we were all working really hard in the business until we hired that district operational manager to oversee all of the employees. When I say all of the employees, there's only a handful, and that's what really helped make that business more semi-absentee. There's not a lot of moving parts to it, not a lot of people, and we hired somebody and paid them a lot of money for the skill set and the experience they had to be able to do our job as an owner. So, just a little rant on semi-absentee before I get into this, because I think the question that was asked is a really good question. How soon can you incentivize a manager to handle the operations and the sales so you can take a step back as being an in the trenches owner? I've done this wrong a lot of different times. I started out and gave someone the option to have ownership from day one. They never vested, but they had the option to do that if they met certain milestones. And a couple of things. The business did not ramp up as fast, so they did not really have the opportunity to vest, and it never and they didn't want to vest by the time they could vest because the business wasn't in a place where they would really want to. So I had that idea. I actually twice I think I've had that, and it didn't work out. Now, in a different scenario, I went into it early on with a group of franchisees where they are the business owner along with myself. I'm capital. They are getting paid for their time in the business. That's where it works well. So let's say you're the owner. You don't want to be working in the business all the time. Here's how I would do it. I would, get in the trenches for the first year in business as the founder of that particular location or locations as a franchisee. And then I would start to identify people that are working for you, and you hire them with that in mind. Somebody that wants more than just a job. They want some type of profit sharing or phantom equity or something like that. So you're hiring all along the way for the person that wants more. And then you get to see how they're doing without more. And then the time comes, 6 to 12 months into it, where you understand their leadership abilities. And I think that's really important to understand their ability to lead people. Sales are one thing. People can just go in and get a bunch of sales, get a bunch of customers in from a marketing standpoint, but they have to be able to manage people. And I would also say they have to be coachable and teachable themselves. So they're not leading as a dictator. They're leading from the servant's heart type leadership. They're leading with integrity. They have a desire to get better at leadership because if they were amazing at leadership and had all kinds of opportunity, they wouldn't be looking for opportunity from you right now. So you want them to be on this leadership journey. I'd recommend reading John Maxwell's books and other just like leadership type information, and talk to them about it to understand where they see their leadership, where they're broken, where they need more help, etc. Also, like, how do they handle stress? So it's one thing when things are going great and it's like, customers are coming in, there's no employee issues yet. And so you don't really understand how they take ownership of the problems, of the issues, of the things that come up, and how many good decisions are they going to make. So problem comes up in the business. Here's the scenario that I would like to see it play out. Problem comes up in the business. They come to me and say, here are 3 different ways I can handle this. I'm going to take ownership of this. This is the 3 different ways that I can handle it. And this is the one way that I think we should handle it. And this is why. And if that aligns with what you're going to do, then let them go. They are making good decisions. Or if they, choose, you like option A, they like option B, and nobody likes option C, and option B is not going to be detrimental to the business or employees or something, then let them do it and see how it works out. You might be wrong, they might be wrong, but give them some ability to be able to make some wrong decisions, or at least the decisions that you think would be wrong. Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are 2 really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You can join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is if you're a franchisor and you're frustrated that you're not awarding as many franchises as you thought you would, this is the reason I created the Franchisor Mastermind. If you want access to the information, the techniques that the best franchise sales organizations are using to award franchises, and you want what mature brands have with their playbook of having happy, successful franchisees that grow the right way, then you might want to check out the Franchisor Mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections, They want the playbook to achieve both short-term and long-term success. They want to increase enterprise value in their brand. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com. So, profit sharing or equity. Equity is not easy. Equity is I would probably look at more profit sharing, especially if you're first starting to get into this. We have it set up right now with one of my brands that I'm a fully passive owner in, because I don't do anything in the business. We all have real equity in the business. I think profit sharing is simpler. They get a cut of the profits without complex ownership. And there's just, more legal expenses. They have ownership. They're probably going to be on the hook for liabilities as well. And there's just so many things to think about. So I think profit sharing is easier. And then you just think about, and with equity, when do they vest? How much do they vest? Over what time period do they vest? So there's a lot of things to consider. And then what's the business worth at that point? And so many different things to consider with real equity. Phantom equity, even still a lot to consider, but profit sharing, just getting a cut of the profits is a lot easier. I'm going to be talking about this for franchisees and franchisors. I kind of got a playbook that I'm going to be going over in the mastermind sessions for those members. But I think that's a question that comes up a lot. Those bonuses, profit sharing, time to KPIs, their KPIs, things that they have control over, not the things that you have the control over. So that's just my 2 cents on profit sharing versus equity. Start out with profit sharing if you want, and you get more advanced, bigger deals, the types of people that want equity are probably owners. Like, they want equity. So you just need to figure out how that works. Again, my best way, equal money in, equal equity. They get paid for being the owner in the business. They get paid for that. And they get paid a lot of money for that because they're incentivized to do a really good job. And then also, they don't get jealous of me not working in the business because they're getting compensated a lot. And if they decide they don't want to do that anymore after a certain period of time, then we have a lot of money to hire really good people. So that's the best way that I've seen it. A couple little tips. You don't want to give too much away. It's easy to give too much away too soon. You also have to leave room for, they don't work out, they're not doing very well, or you have other key players that are coming in that you need to give some equity to, or greater profit sharing and whatnot. You really need to define the roles, like whether it's a sales role, a training role, ops role. Just be super clear on the role that it is, and then, have meetings about it and KPIs around it. Structure those weekly meetings and review them and hold them accountable. So that's what I would say about that. Let's see. I could say more, but I think that's enough. Because I love it. I love giving people ownership, especially in a sales standpoint. At Front Street Equity Partners, where we are outsourced FSO to different franchise brands, we love to share in the profits. People eat what they kill, and you got to be very generous with that too. You got to be at market or above market to keep your people happy. So if they're in some type of sales role, you want to incentivize them to sell. And if somebody's not selling, whether they're selling memberships at your franchise or franchises, if they're not doing a good job, they probably want a higher salary and lower commissions. We prefer higher commissions, lower salary, because the best ones, they want that too. All right. Let's talk about the reality of being a franchisor. I think this is really important for franchisees to listen to this too, because this will give you insight into emerging brands, a lot of emerging brands that you're part of. Which, the more that you know about them, what they're dealing with, how they're thinking, the more that you're going to be able to have them help you. So when you are a franchisor, and you've never been a franchisor before, you're entering into a completely new business model. And it's the business of franchising. You are used to running this most of the time, a multi-unit, multi-truck type operation. Maybe you have multiple different markets. You are the boss. What you say goes. You have your KPIs. You are running a small, medium business, an SMB. That's what you're used to doing. And you're really good at it, whether it's marketing or ops or KPIs or employees or just having, something special to be able to have something that you can turn into a franchise. Or I see the breakdown happen is these successful small business owners, medium-sized business owners are now have lightning in a bottle. They have a very good franchise friendly business model. They turn it into a franchise. Now they have franchisees. Hopefully they have some franchisees. A lot of what we see is at Front Street. We talk to brands all the time, and it's not as exciting as they thought it would be because they used to have a ton of customers that say, "I'll buy your first franchise," and most of the time they don't. So it's never as easy. Most of the time, it's not as easy as franchisors think it is. So they start to get a little bit discouraged, or they have lightning in the bottle and they start selling franchises. And now these franchisees are not employees. A lot of times, like legally, they're not employees. Contractually, they're not employees. One way to think about it is they're your customer. And franchisors, I mean, think about it. They're your customer. Their success as a franchisee is your success. Franchisees, a lot of times, like, been both a franchisee and a franchisor. Franchisees, when I was a franchisee, I thought, yep, I'm their customer. They owe all of this stuff to me. And a franchisor is like, you are still the one that it's your business. You're the one that needs to execute. I'll give you the playbook, you execute. So there's two different ways that franchisees and franchisors can look at it. I love to look at it like this franchisor, they're helping me. They're going to do what it takes. Most of them are that I've been a part of have been that way. They really want to help me succeed. They've got to make decisions that are different than I would want to make as a franchisee. And I've had this. I've been a franchisee with 6 or 7 different brands. And I had ideas that I could swear were better ideas than the franchisor. And some of the times they were better ideas and they eventually got implemented. But if the brand says no, you can't do this, not ever, not now, maybe in the future, whatever it is, if it's a no, the worst thing that you can do as a franchisee is just continuing to pound the franchisor. Why won't you let me do this? And complain to other franchisees. They're not letting me do this. Have this vendor go this way, have this on the website, change this, do that. Like, why fight those battles when you can just start executing the things that do work? That's what I would do. Franchise if you're not getting it from the franchisor, go to the franchisees that are doing well, that are happy, and find out what they're doing and do what they're doing. So, franchisors, your new cut, they're like, think of franchisees like you're there to help them be successful. Your focus as a franchisor, new franchisor, shifts from like daily operations of your business, selling widgets, providing services, or whatever it is. Like, you're good at daily operations, or you have a manager that's really good at operations and you're really good at managing that person at that local level. But now your focus shifts from, working in the business daily to building a scalable system. Like, that's your focus now. So, you've got to have, your focus on training, support, marketing. Consistency is really important. Consistency across the brand. Franchisees may not see that as important as you do, but it is important, and they won't see it until it becomes important to them, meaning their neighbor's not doing things the way that they should be doing, and now it impacts their business as a franchisee. That's when it becomes important to them. So you just have to realize that there's all kinds of other things that you just have to be careful of as a franchisee. But your growth as a franchisor is different than your growth as a small business owner. You have to do things within the franchising laws. You have to hire different people than you're used to hiring. And I think one of the bigger things is a lot of us founders are visionary people. We're not the best at operations. Like, I admit it, I am not the best at operations. I don't wake up and think operations. Now, my business partner, Jim, wakes up and thinks about operations and KPIs and making things better. But I don't do that. So that's not you as a founder. You need to find that second in command to be able to do that, because your franchisees have to feel supported. They have to be supported. They have to be for a lack of a better term, handheld along the way to success. They can't feel abandoned. They can't feel like you're not helping them. So you got to invest in, the training and the technology and the people. That's how you start to build a really good franchise system. All right. Let's do another question. Investing in a resale. All right, let's talk about someone said, when looking at the purchase price of a resale franchise, how long should I expect it to pay off before seeing a return? I think somebody said 3 to 5 years in there. If it can't be paid off in 5 years, the valuation's too high, I think somebody said. Or I've heard it before. I don't know if somebody said it or I just heard that. 5x is, so we're talking not franchisors, we're talking franchisees, and really what your buyers are doing is they're buying cash flow. So you've heard of different, like, I know some fitness, big, well-known fitness brands out there. They were getting 5, 6, 7, 8x multiples. In other words, it could take 8 years for that new owner to pay off the location that they just bought. They're playing a different game if they're paying that much. They're probably rolling them up. They're buying 10, 20, 50, 100, 200 of these locations, and then they are going to sell that to a private equity company that will pay a higher multiple because they have different ways, different levers to pull to make it more valuable to them. Or as a franchisee might pay 5x versus 3x because they have a whole operational team in place that they can cut costs and there is room to grow the revenue. So they know that they can do that. And then maybe they're going to sell to the person that is going to eventually sell to private equity. So they're playing different games. But in general, I think businesses go 3x to 4x of earnings, maybe EBITDA, earnings before interest and taxes and depreciation and amortization. Some people say 2 to 3x is annual profit, or EBITDA is the way to go. The things to think about if you are buying a new one: how many years are left on the franchise agreement? How many and most likely you will be signing a then current franchise agreement. So you won't be getting their agreement assigned to you unless that's part of the deal. So that's something to be aware of. They might have an agreement that has less royalties, less fees, less of a lot, because contracts never get better for the franchisee. They just get better for the franchisor. That's why some people like emerging brands, because you get better contracts. But when you go to sell, you need to understand, whether you're the buyer or the seller, does my current contract, and are they buying the entity which owns that contract, or are they buying a new kind of agreement from the franchisor? So there's a new franchise agreement in place. You need to look at the different fees that you have to pay. Like, do you have some franchise renewal agreements that are coming up? Are there transfer costs, things like that? And that's really, negotiated between the buyer and the seller. But also, see if there's any big brand updates that need to happen within, like as Sola. I can't remember when it was, 8 years, 10 years into it, there's a brand refresh, which caused, if I was in it at that time, I would have to kick out all my tenants, find a place for them to go, and then do a big refresh and displace my current tenants and spend a lot of money to get everything updated. So you need to understand that. And then just understand, like, what are the marketing expenses now? The other thing when you are looking at buying a resale is not territory, but staff turnover. Like, you need to understand, like, probably everybody that you think is going to stay probably won't stay. And then just, you need to structure it in a way that's probably beneficial to both. There's tax implications depending on how the sale is structured. So that's something a lot of new business sellers or buyers don't think about, but there's way to, how much is goodwill, how much is inventory, how much is, so you have to understand all of that, because there are real tax consequences involved in that for both parties. And you just need to work with the seller on that. I think one thing to think about, franchisors don't love taking a new candidate, prospect, lead, buyer, uh, and then showing them existing franchises for sale. They would rather that, and I know some franchises that require on a resale, they require you to buy unopened territories so they can expand and grow. So just know that you might not have access to all the, resales, because not all the resales are actually, out for everyone to see. Not like they're hiding something, but not all franchisees have it advertised that they're selling. Once you get into it, that might be an opportunity. I've had a lot of friends make a lot of money doing the resale thing, but meaning buying resales, but they also know the business inside and out. And not every one of them has gone from a resale to a big pot of gold. They've had some dogs along the way, but they've done enough of them where they had way more winners than losers. All right, technology, AI, and franchise. And I was just at a conference in Park City where it's called the Unconference. So if you're a franchisor, definitely check out the Unconference and Springboard, put on by the same guys, Lane Fisher and Brad Fishman and family. Great conferences. But I was talking to a friend, Ryan Hicks, out there, and Ryan's doing all kinds of things in franchising. Great guy, talking about AI and technology. And he's just, we just kind of talked about that for a little bit. There's so much going on with AI and franchise. I'm doing a lot of that inside my masterminds for both franchisees and franchisors. The brands that we look at buying or selling for, is in terms of the outsourced FSO, franchise sales organization at Front Street. We want brands that are leaning into technology, that are working with AI. They're not afraid of that. They're leaning into it because there's so much happening within that. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about this because I get into the weeds on some of these free webinars that I do. And by the way, if you want access to some of these free webinars, it's in the Facebook group. You'll be able to see that. I think that's it for now. I think we hit some of the main questions. I'll leave you with this. Buying a franchise, you're just buying a business. You're buying a business, and you're not going to, be out there all alone, because you have the franchisor. You've got their experience, you've got their leadership, but at the end of the day, you are buying a business, and it is up to you to make it work. And I think too many franchisees rely too much on the franchisor. And I'm saying this as a franchisee. Like, as I say this, I have my franchisee hat on because I've owned a ton of franchises. And I would say this back then, I'll say it now. You as a franchisee, you take responsibility for the things that aren't going well. And can you blame your franchisor for some of it? Absolutely. Is it going to help? Probably not. So that's why I say take responsibility, make the changes, get involved with groups like mine, the Franchisee Mastermind, the Franchise Tribe. There's all kinds of great groups to get involved with out there. Get to know your owners that are successful, not whiners, not always complaining, not always fighting the franchisor. Get around people that are actually doing well, whether they're in your industry or outside of your industry. Get to know them locally, and that's how you win. So that's it for today. Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.